I'm really excited for everyone to hear about the Constellations of Living Memorials program. When I first heard about it, it was one of the most innovative approaches to cemetery preservation that I've come across in a long time. So I hope you find that the content interesting and engaging. Here for that, we have Julie Fineman. She's president, Friends of the Warren Ferris Cemetery, and she's the co-creator of the Constellation of Living Memorials. And Julie will be up here, but she asked me for her part to just play a video, which we will do to start. We also have Lynn McBee from the Oakland Cemetery, and who's going to be talking about that as well. And Lynn is a civic leader in Dallas and has done a lot of work tackling some of the city's toughest challenges. And I'll let you read the biography if you want more information on Lynn. But these are some go-getters, powerful women, and we wish them well in their endeavors. And so let's start the video if we could.
In quiet corners of our city, behind rusted gates and beneath tangles of overgrown vines, lie cemeteries that have been forgotten as the communities around them move on. Historic cemeteries, an integral part of the tapestry of every city, tell a story not just of neglect, but of possibility.
7 years ago, my husband and I were drawn to this beautiful home in a forested area of Dallas, though right next door happened to be a historic cemetery that was neglected. 2 years later, I became a master naturalist and a master gardener student and quickly learned I was living next door to a natural disaster. So I gathered my neighbors and we went to work 3 months every weekend to clear the privet. But what's so extraordinary is Engelmann daisies and blackland prairie grasses bloomed as if remembering themselves.
This sparked the birth of a new movement, the Constellation of Living Memorials, a visionary 2-year pilot program created by the Friends of the Warren Ferris Cemetery, a 501c3, was started to bridge the gap between humanity and nature and realize the potential for life buried in each historic cemetery. It is a small but mighty initiative, with wide recognition ranging from Dallas publications to a feature on the New York Times front page. Oakland Cemetery, a 47-acre cemetery located in Dallas's southern sector, is part of the 2-year pilot program, along with 4 other historic cemeteries.
The cemetery had really been neglected for a really long time. When we first came out here, because of the tremendous amount of overgrowth, there was a lot of criminal activity taking place out here. And clearing it all and getting to a point where you can now see through the cemetery and cars that are coming and going and whatnot, we don't see that anymore. We were able to build trust with our families because we did spend 4 years clearing the ground and cleaning it up. And so they were able to come out and see the tremendous amount of work and progress that was made in returning dignity to the final burial space. So when we decided to turn around and take a few acres off of that 47 and say, okay, we're dedicating this strictly to prairie preservation. We had a few people that questioned, why isn't this area getting mowed? Why isn't this area under the maintenance plan and whatnot? But we were able to explain to them what the overall goal was.
That trust has led to some incredible results and opportunities for the Constellation of Living Memorials to leverage more partnerships for the greatest amount of impact. For example, in collaboration with Texas Trees Foundation, over the course of just 4 work days, 48 volunteers from 7 organizations were able to remove approximately 1.25 acres of invasive vegetation. This makes a huge difference for families who are now able to access the grave sites of loved ones and ancestors. Transformation continues with intentional native landscape design to support wildlife. The Oakland Cemetery Wildflower Memorial is an area dedicated to the remembrance of 300 victims of fungal meningitis buried here in 1913 without any type of marker. Now, their memory is honored with a vibrant array of native wildflowers and grasses. This small pond provides water to local wildlife. The Constellation secured grant funding through the North Texas Master Naturalist chapter, creating a class project, empowering students to lead native landscape design at Oakland Cemetery, including installing the pond, creating the Wildflower Memorial, and participating in flora-fauna surveys. Inspired by this experience, the class created the Oakland Prairie Preservation Project. In all 5 participating historic cemeteries, we now see native plants blooming in multitudes, and native insects and wildlife taking residence in these renewed spaces.
We're here to create a beautiful final resting place for everyone that's here and return the dignity to all of those buried here, and also respect the land. Mother Nature doesn't stop. We've got to work in tandem and not work against it.
Giving Mother Nature space to transform herself creates space for transformation in communities. Community partnerships pave the way for these transformations to extend even further.
Constellation of Living Memorials had this project of reviving abandoned or neglected cemeteries. Well, Julie, she wanted to involve youth in her project. And we love the idea because she came out with one project that we are very interested in here in Dallas County, because we are an urban program and we don't have that much space for livestock and agriculture like is traditionally known by 4-H programs. We want to teach kids about entomology, the study of bugs. With the help of Constellation of Living Memorials, one of the cemeteries that are part of the project and the Compassion Center in Dallas, we started to recruit kids to actually deliver a 10-lesson program of combined curriculum of beekeeping and entomology. And they love the idea of teaching the community that reach out to them every day and teaching the youth those subject areas. So it was amazing. We had a really good program. Right now it's actually a 4-H club, and they are meeting pretty much every week. And they are learning along with Constellation of Living Memorials and the cemetery about wildlife. And believe me, this is a small cemetery in the middle of the city. The things that they had done in that cemetery is amazing.
Outside of a funeral, cemetery is like off limits, whether it was active or inactive. These learning spaces that is with these historic graveyards is highly important. You don't get this in school, so exposing them to this level of nature from a controlled learning environment with these historic cemeteries is going to be key for their development.
There is a public value, not only to recover a piece of history and beautifying it and transforming it to a classroom, but also to bring communities together and bring youth, which is our future, to teach them something new or something that they can't get anywhere else.
Albert Carver Cemetery, the perfect backdrop for the 4-H Club's outdoor portion, is a small family cemetery on the corner of a large, busy intersection. The family has spent years and money trying to fix the same fences over and over while maintaining the cemetery itself. In the last couple of years, as they've participated in the pilot program for the Constellation, they've begun to make other kinds of changes to allow more space for wildlife and native plants. This year, after dealing with damage from hit and runs over and over, the Carver family was able to install $2,675 worth of large rocks around the perimeter to help protect the fence. This was made possible with grant funding obtained by the Constellation.
We're going to put the boulders right behind the guardrail and eventually move the fence line as close back as we possibly can, because we've got the historical marker right there. We recently had the 2 infants headstones repaired. We're hoping that placing the boulders will eliminate any more of the damage to the fence. It will be hopefully the end of our headache over here with the constant hit and runs.
Each cemetery is unique and has its own personality. Western Heights Cemetery shows us a beautiful contrast. Here we can find the headstone of Clyde Barrow, of Bonnie and Clyde fame, or a humble, homemade cement headstone lovingly engraved by hand. The work of preservation is essential, and it takes many forms. The Constellation also provides repair workshops at the partner cemeteries. This ensures that headstones are being cared for appropriately, and the legacy they represent can be appreciated for many years. Grants through the Constellation enabled another remarkable partnership.
My name is Van Johnson. I'm the volunteer coordinator here at Western Heights Cemetery. I'm having a blast on this project. We are one of the 5 pilot cemeteries for the Constellation of Living Memorials, and we are in the second half of the second year. The Constellation of Living Memorials obtained the $30,000 Texas Historical Foundation grant. We have come a long way. We've used the money to plant a lot of native plants, and also the mowing hiatus has allowed our native seed bank to emerge, and we have a remarkable amount of diversity because of that. The Constellation of Living Memorials also obtained a $30,000 grant from the Summerlee Foundation. Victoria Clow teaches anthropology at Dallas College. She was hired to have her students, which they've done in many other cemeteries, professionally clean these headstones. We did a screen scrape of everything on Find a Grave, and then Victoria Clow's students, when they were done cleaning, then they went back through and they noted the condition of every stone, whether it was cracked, tilted, leaning, chipped, scratched. So all that's recorded.
This one-year study conducted by Victoria Clow and her students concluded with an open-sourced constellation of living memorial cultural archaeological curriculum for students nationwide.
My goal is for Western Heights Cemetery to be the best researched historical cemetery in Dallas County.
Thanks to a large network of dedicated volunteers, this important work can continue, and the Constellation of Living Memorials can take the transformation of sacred spaces into even more communities.
It's a peaceful place, and like I said, if you're trying to make your mind up or you got something heavy that's weighing on you, this is definitely a place that you would just want to come walk through. This is a lot of acres, and if people could really come out here and see how it looks now from where it came from, I think they would be inspired to do better or be like us.
This place right here, it has the potential to be one of the most beautiful cemeteries in the country.
Through the transformation of these sacred spaces, we begin to experience an authentic sense of place and allow future generations to see where they've come from.
There are over 15,000 cemeteries in Texas. A third of them are neglected. So you can imagine the impact that we can make even if we just take 1/10 of the third and restore them back into wildlife habitats. We're living in a time when the divide between people and planet has grown too wide. But I've seen it, how community members, given the chance, come alive when they're offered a role in restoration. It's not just work, it's healing. The Constellation of Living Memorials invites us to reimagine death, to celebrate the circle of life.
You know, we always would joke that there's way more living going on at Oakland than there is dying.
actually, if because of time, Lynn will take the stage, and then Matt Orwat is going to take the stage after her. Zimar Diaz, the director of the Texas A&M AgriLife Department for the Dallas County South Hill. So Matt is taking her place. So.
Well, first, thank you for having me today, and the beautiful video that you saw, and I'm just looking through gorgeous, maybe a Black-Eyed Susans, when it kind of gave you a little bit more history on Oakland and why these partnerships are so important and why leaning into nature in these abandoned cemeteries, which is what Oakland was. Back in early 2000, I have family there to Oakland, and our family got a phone call that we needed to come out to the cemetery because the grave had been desecrated. And Oakland Cemetery, as you heard, is almost 50 beautiful acres, South Dallas, Fair Park area, gorgeous, statuary, and just things that you don't have the craftsmen to do it anymore. And so we went out, we made a police report. And I remember going and thinking, wow, this is just beautiful, but it was so neglected. And there was a board at the time, very small board. It's about board governance is so important, that had really basically kind of gone through the money and were neglecting the cemetery because it was supposed to be perpetual care. So it's not an unusual story. Generations past, these are, relatives that are great grandparents, right? Fifth generation Dallas now. And so I was struck by just the beauty of it and the neglect of it. But of course, there was just the paperwork of the police and all of this and what had been stolen, and learning that, cemeteries, people go in, they steal the urns, and there's this market to resell all these beautiful statues in the European market. And just the whole thing was about who would come in and do this. And so anyway, we made the police report, and we talked to the person that met us with the cemetery and said, we'd love to get involved. We'd love to give you some money. We'd love to help here. And we never heard anything. And, kind of life goes on, you get busy. And then in 2019, I was reading, and I'm sure all of you know Robert Wolanski and the wonderful role he plays in bringing to light historic stories and just great stories for Dallas. And on the front page of the Metro, Robert Wolanski, there was a story, and it had a picture of the Oakland, that beautiful, and it said closed. And I read, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is the same, here we are, fast forward. And, basically we've run out of money. We're going to just shut it down. And I thought, how does this one small board that actually had no family buried there just shut something down? And so I was like, we got to do something about this. So I go down and I speak to our city council member, Adam Bazadula. He was newly elected. He said, well, go fix it. And I was like, and I work on a lot of projects in Dallas, big and some real small. I thought, okay, how hard can this be? Very hard. The bylaws were from the turn of the century. So we hired a law firm to redo them so that they were something we could all be proud of today. We reconstituted the board with people that had family buried, that cared about this. And then we started raising money just by basically going and figuring out, okay, I think I know somebody there, and that's probably this name now. And just through this grassroots effort. And Monica Newberry was someone that was present all the time, kind of taking care of her family's part. So you had this, you had families that were with mowers taking care of their part. So there might be a great part, and then it was really overgrown. And so here we are, and when we were going through all of this and thinking about this, the cost of mowing 50 acres is extreme. This is not, and you all know in this preservation work that you don't just get a ride mower and start riding over, headstones and statuary. So it comes with some complexities and some expense and some knowledge. But we were all determined, and we were raising the money. And so we, at that time, I remember internalizing just how beautiful the nature out here was and how beautiful the habitat was, but it was so overgrown. And I just remember thinking, oh my gosh, this is kind of a land use discussion in my mind at this time. And I'd actually applaud the Constellation for thinking about these spaces as natural labs, but also like, what do we do with this? It's land use. We've got land that is beautiful, that if we can bring it to life will become something that our pollinators, our birds, our nature, and something that we can enjoy. We can get out in nature. We can have, our meditative space, all these different things. But there was a push-pull on the board on what we should do, because it becomes a discussion about, well, there are people buried here. And I'm a runner, and I was like, well, let's put running trails, and let's put walking trails. Oh, no. we'd be running and stepping on people. And so there were all kinds of different, and so I think it's when you get into these restoration projects, we're at a point that this is a much different place than it was, and it's natural and it's beautiful, and there's so many lovely partnerships. But there's a lot of different thoughts on what we do with these abandoned spaces. And so I'm thinking of trails and green space, and can't we all just come in and enjoy nature, are different from other people that were on the board that were like, well, that's my great somebody, and I don't think that's respectful. So I think when you get into this work, you have to definitely, it's not as easy as you would maybe think. And respecting everybody's opinions and trying to find that balance. And I think at Oakland, we've got the back that is now a lot of grasses, very high, and people are like, why isn't that being mowed? Well, there's a reason. And so you can do a lot in these spaces that make achieves everybody's goals. Respecting you has been buried there, taking care of the people that we all loved and cared about, really celebrating history. But then these are just, I'm trying to think, Julie, we've got like some prairie grasses that are like the best prairie grasses there's like only 9 other of this type of prairie grass in Oakland. And it was someone from A&M on our recent board call that told us that they were giving a report, and they said, you have no idea how rich in natural grasses and native, all these. And so to me, we're at a point that, we're excited about collaborating with Constellations. We're excited about what the future looks like and just kind of imagining what the community wants the space to be. And we had a little conversation yesterday at the MLK Center in South Dallas. We brought neighbors in and said, what do you imagine this being? Because most of the people that are, if you're a 5th generation Dallas, you might live somewhere else. And so, Oakland Cemetery has a lot of history, and there's a lot of different things that we need to celebrate, but there's a lot of different thoughts on what we should do. But I think we're all leaning into what does the community want this to be, and I think it being a natural lab for kids to come and learn and play, and people to come and sit and meditate, and trails is kind of probably where we're going to land. And so we're excited. But this was yesterday when we had the conference, or the little talk at the MLK Center, and I was thinking, there was a time when I thought we wouldn't want to collaborate with anybody because I wasn't sure we were going to make it. And I have led projects and I've raised money, but this was hard. I mean, it was, historic, and I don't need to tell you this, historic preservation is not the thing that gets funded first. It's like, it's down here, maybe under the environment, right? It's like you've got health and human services, and you've got schools and churches and all these things, and you've got environment and usually historic preservation. So it's hard, but I think leaning into nature and the health benefits of that is a way to raise money. And obviously Constellation's been very successful in some of the early grants, and want to honestly thank you for thinking about how we think about these sacred and cherished places, because there was a time when it was a very small group of us, and I'm not a quitter, I'm persistent, but I thought, oh my gosh, can we really do this, and how can we maintain this? And taking a space back to its natural beauty is a way to bring the budget down, to celebrate nature, and to have something really lovely. So I don't have slides. I think that this kind of tells a story, but from one board member on the board myself, I can say that I think I speak for everybody, and that it's been a great partnership, and we're excited about how things are going with Oakland. And so for all of you that are leaning into these cemeteries and these spaces and these old churches, love them and care about it, and figure out how to make it work, because it can. And when it does, I'm really proud looking at that. So thank you.
So thank you all for having us here. My name is Matthew Orwat, and I am the Agriculture and Natural Resource Extension Agent for Dallas County. And if you've heard of AgriLife Extension, Texas A&M AgriLife, well, we used to be called the Texas Cooperative Extension Service, and we've been active in every county in the state of Texas since 1914. So we appreciate the history. And so I'm a self-described plant nerd and academic kind of sort of person. So when Julie approached me, I said, well, I love my plants. I love plants. And she knew that I did from when I first started working here. And so I didn't really know what she was doing, but I always loved history as well. And I have family history in Western Texas with cemeteries and things. So I kind of got what she was talking about. And so I took, when I first met Julie, I found an old soil survey from 1925 in our office, and I folded it out so it's a big old map. And I found Oakland Cemetery on there, denoted. And it was very unique that the soil type there is not found in the city of Dallas. And I'm going to have some slides too coming up. And so what happened is I found that soil type is very different from the soil type around me. And it was a sandy loam soil, where most of Dallas is more of a fertile clay soil that has more of a fertility for crops. So I think one of the reasons it was placed there was because it wasn't considered as fertile, and it was full of post oaks, which is a different kind of ecosystem. So my thought, and what Julie and I were thinking, and we said, this area probably has never seen a plow, never been tilled, never farmed. And judging by the age of some of the trees, some of them predate the cemetery as well, from the post oak savanna. And then when the Constellation of Living Memorial project started at the various cemeteries, but especially Oakland, what happened was, it wasn't just no mow. There are certain areas where they just would mow higher, and also if they and you'd see plants emerge that were from seed banks that had been there maybe 100 years. The seed had been waiting, and then we would see. So the master naturalist is as part of our extension service. They're volunteers that they go through training to learn about nature, and then they expand and teach that all over the county. And master naturalists, no one's a master of being a naturalist, but that's just the title. But people just learn their niche, and then they go through a basic training, and then they teach throughout the county about nature and about natural resources. And so people were noticing these native plants coming up, so they said, okay, Monica, can you please not mow that little area for 2 weeks and see what comes up? And that's why you saw the big display of the Rebeckia plants, the black-eyed Susans. And so what we offer is, let's see, where are we? Okay, yeah. So what our goal is to teach from our organization is to just teach about agriculture and natural resources to the public, right? So we want to have an intentional mindset. How can we best reach the public? And so when partnering with Constellation, I'm saying we can reach people that we would not normally reach, people that have not attended our programs before, by expanding our reach into these cemeteries to use it as kind of a lab to teach about nature. And then Julie said, what about the 4-H program? What can we do with that? And so I connected her with our 4-H staff, and working with those folks, we had over at Albert Carver there, we were partnered with a Compassion Center to have a 4-H club in entomology, and it started off as a spinning club, which is like a test pilot, right? And then now it's a full-fledged club that Julie and other volunteers are leading, a entomology and natural area club, and we're planning some more really neat developments at Albert Carver to work with them, maybe to create an ecosystem kind of a display there with different parts of the cemetery signifying different ecosystems just because of the natural layout of the site. There's a wet part of the site, there's a forested part, there's a grassland part of the site, even on 2 acres, right, Julie? So the next step is we really want to help this grow to other counties. But see, AgriLife we operate very strategically, so we have to have a community buy-in. We cannot do anything without input from the community. So we want to, before we embark on anything further, we want to assess what the community needs for the area and be present in that community. So for instance, that means sometimes not just jumping into things, but also thinking strategically of how can we first discover what the community needs and then deliver the educational programs and also community development that the community wants. And so there's lots of different sites. So each site is going to be different. So what we're doing on December